Welcome to Undiet Your Coaching Podcast. I'm Stephanie Dodier, clinical nutritionist and creator of the Going to Beyond the Food method, and I'm on a mission to help all coaches undiet their life and their coaching business. Ready? Let's do this. Welcome back to the podcast, my dear colleague. I have a lot in store for you today and some very spectacular stuff. I was looking for the right word for that, but it's really spectacular. Number one, the podcast today is going to be about the student inside the non-diet coaching certification right now. They're like 5 out of 6 months into the program. We got together half an hour before our office hour, which is a call we have every single week for 6 months, where they get to ask me any question that they have, get coaching on anything personal, professional, business, client support, and they agreed to come in half an hour early on their own time to record a podcast about their personal experience in the non-diet coaching certification. And it's a gem because the openness of those students to share their experience and who they were before and who they are now 5 months in, like they went raw. And I'm so grateful that they were able to be vulnerable, and the capacity that they have built over the last 5 months in being able to be vulnerable like this and talk about their feelings and their growth and where they were and where they are and where they want to be in the most honest way. To me, that's one of the most powerful gifts of the certification, because they will take that in their work with their client, in their marketing, in their social media presence, and some of them want to launch podcasts, and being able to talk at that level is going to be a beautiful conversation for you to listen to and for you to experience the depth of the transformation that we have inside of the certification. You know, I always talk about, every chance I get, embodiment, and how you can only take your client as far as you've taken yourself. And that's why I created that very small container to be able to provide that level of coaching to my students so they can experience that level of transformation you're going to witness today on the podcast, so that they can in turn impact hundreds and hundreds of clients in years to come at that level, in that depth. So if you were hesitant or a question or wanted to get more information about the certification, I think this is a great podcast to listen to. And also, I am hosting on November the 8th a free class called How to Become a Non-Diet Coach. We're going to talk about what being a non-diet coach is, what it's not. We're going to talk about the methodology, the curriculum, the syllabus of the class and the module. And we're going to talk about what I see as mistakes that people make when they go into the field of coaching in the non-diet space. And I'm going to share with you the syllabus and the curriculum of the certification. So if you are on your journey of making a decision for the certification, highly recommend you come to the live class. There's going to be Q&A time at the end for you to ask questions. And if you're listening to this and November 8th is past, know that we're going to set up this class to be on what we call Evergreen, which is a process by which you'll be able to access the replay ongoing. So if you're listening to this past November 8th and you're like, oh, I would really want to watch that class to make sure that the certification is the right place for me to be, still go to the link in the show note, How to Become a Non-Diet Coach, and grab the replay. It's totally free. It will also give you access to the PDF curriculum of all the course and all the content included in the certification. So I told you I had a lot of stuff for you today before we roll in the podcast interview I did with the students. So listen to the podcast, come to the class on November 8th. And then if you need further inquiries to make sure that this is the right place for you, you can book a consultation with me. you can email us at info@stephaniedose.com and we'll take care of you from there. So without any further ado, my team is going to roll out the recording of our students sharing the experience inside of the non-diet coaching certification. And I'll see you on the next podcast. Welcome to the special edition of the podcast. I have three wonderful human beings with me today. So this is going to be a threesome interview. And I've brought these wonderful humans with me to discuss their journey in the non-diet coaching certification over the last nearly 5 months that we've been together, so they can share their experience with you. And we've got questions that have been submitted over the last couple of weeks of things that you want to know from them. So I'll be asking those questions as well. But before we get started, I would love for each of these humans to introduce themselves so you know who's taking part in the conversation. So, Kate, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Williams-Stone, and I'm a non-diet health and life coach for perimenopause.
Amazing.
I'm Candy Wright. I am a body acceptance and life coach for postmenopausal women.
Hi, I'm McKenna LaVenture, and I'm a non-diet coach with an area of focus on body image and intuitive eating.
Okay. So let's get started right with the question that I think is going to set the tone for this interview. You've been working closely with me for 5 months, and we've been doing a lot of coaching, learning intuitive eating and body image, and learning cognitive behavioral coaching. What would you see as your biggest learning over the last 5 months in this journey inside of this program?
That's an easy answer for me. It's learning to trust myself and know that I do have the answers.
That's good.
That is really good. Love that. I love questions like this because it always feels like you got to say one thing, and I can't say.
Say many things then, Candy.
I know, right? The trust is a huge one. I mean, the whole point of this program is to create our inner trust and inner autonomy, and we start that with the intuitive eating and the body image stuff, and it's so powerful, so good. And I would just add a couple of things that kind of have been so personal to me. Your just background with feminism and helping us understand that this is a collective challenge that women have gone through. Making it a collective challenge just enables, I think it enabled me, and I think it can enable so many other women to realize that all these judgments that we've had, the not trusting ourselves we had, it's not a personal problem. And that was really big for me. It just understanding that, you know what, we've been conditioned this way. What if we just start to kind of give that back and stop making it be something's wrong with us, and then connected to that conditioning, always thinking that we have to fix, and then going into perfectionism. That whole kind of mixture has been the biggest pieces for me is, what if there's nothing to fix? What if that's conditioning? Right? That's been huge. I'm sure we could talk the whole hour about what we learned. Those are some of the ones that have really touched me.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think for me, the biggest learning has been the body image and the nervous system piece, because I was coaching intuitive eating before, but the piece that was missing was the body image piece, right? Like the root cause of dieting is the body image piece, the body image struggles, the wanting to fix your body, change your body. And so previously I was like so scared to address that with my clients, but I also think with myself. And so now having it all interconnected, the intuitive eating, the body image piece, and then the nervous system piece that we go so deeply on in body image has really made a dramatic change for me personally, but also in my coaching.
So I'm going to build on that question for all of you. We kind of globalize what your biggest learning is, but one of the things that I prone is embodiment, right? And how we bring this content to other women to change, as Candy said, the collective. But what have you seen personally change the most in your life? and please share what you're comfortable sharing to the public, but how have you changed in your personal life as a result of, as you said, Kate, learning about the nervous system, mindset? What have you observed to be the biggest win in your personal journey of embodying this work?
I'm just going to jump in here because as soon as you started to say the question, I started to get tears in my eyes, to be honest. So I'm just going to be really authentic here. It's just been really touching to, I mentioned in the last one, to really consider that there might not be anything to fix. That really, truly, I, like so many women, struggled with judging my body, judging food, and controlling my body with food. And I didn't realize it until I was over 50. And I know I'm not the only one. And so this big, beautiful kind of explosion inside of me has been, it's okay to love the now body. It's okay to not conform. I didn't realize how much safety of conformity that I relied on all my life. Again, I can't just pick one, but all I can say is, as you asked that question, my eyes welled up with gratitude because it's so deep, the change that has happened from the inside out. And I think the feeling or the emotion result has been just a different kind of peace that is no longer run by what felt like I'm not good enough, right? I'm not good enough because I don't fit into the conditioning. Yeah. And so then every week that we're on our calls, I say the same thing. I'm like, I'm getting like all kinds of neural pathways blown up here. And so that's what I have to say.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I actually don't know how to put this into words, but I'd say there's these feelings of content and just being okay with what is. There's a newfound sense of gratitude. It's like I've opened up something else inside me or found something. And I'll even share that my therapist commented on it yesterday and told me that she's noticed there's been a change in how I feel things in my body, and that clearly I've been doing somatic work on my own, and that I'm really like in tune with myself. And she thought it was the coolest thing of how she's seen me transform over the last few months.
That's beautiful because it just shows that it's not about coaching versus therapy. Mm-hmm. The magic comes when both come together. I didn't even know you had a therapist, but clearly coaching helped your therapy work, and your therapy work helped coaching as well.
Yes, exactly.
It's not one or the other. It's both together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. I think for me, it's this, like Candy and McKenna both shared, but like this new sense of peace. Like I didn't know how much like perfectionism and anxiety were running the show. I kind of had accepted it as this is just like how I am, or like my personality or my genetics. I don't know what I thought it was related to, but I was like, this is just it, And also looking at like role models of other women in my family, I'm like, we're just a nervous bunch. That's it, And instead, there's like a new sense of like peace and reduced anxiety, but not from, I used to think that reducing anxiety was about like getting it right or like having things in order. And I think that's like having my own back, trusting myself, knowing that if I make a mistake or fail, that I'm not going to beat myself up. Like that's the piece that was missing. So it's like a whole new approach to the anxiety and perfectionism that I didn't even see it before.
As you share that, the thing that comes to my mind is we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So you used to think that anxious Kate was just Kate.
Yeah.
And then now that you felt different, you're like, oh, there's this other place that I can be, that what I thought was normal is actually just anxiety. So I'm going to roll off to the next question. How does that impact the business version of you, the CEO version of you, the marketing version of you? Like, how is what you just shared, Kate and everyone, has shown up in your business? Because that's always the question that I get, because people think of business in a very has to be this way, like the bro marketing way. But I believe there's another way of doing business. Go ahead, McKenna. You raised your hand like
Yeah, sorry.
voluntarily. I want to say something.
I mean, like what you spoke on, I thought there was like a specific way I needed to do things and was constantly looking for answers or unsure myself. And I just started to trust myself, essentially, is what happened, and didn't rush myself to like try to create things and do things. And honestly, the most engagement I've gotten is through telling my story.
So you've just discovered that you can do business differently at your own pace, and that's where success is.
Yeah, essentially. I personally don't think it comes to posting specific times a week or certain times a day or 24/7. I think it honestly lies in me being authentic.
Being you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing.
I see my business as a different like type of container now. Like this framework that you've introduced us to as like goals being a container to become this new version of yourself. So like any marketing effort I make or content creation in my business, it's like, how can I serve people? And how is this also serving me? Versus being like a way to rate myself, right? Like I think I used to use my business like I did the scale, right? Like my business is successful if it makes X many of dollars, X many clients. Like this is how I'm going to be successful. And now I'm like, I will meet myself in my business, however, right? And I'm not going to use it as another tool to beat myself up.
That's profound.
Yeah. It's a whole new perspective.
What has been, so since you've molded this new way of thinking about your business, as your output of service been different, quality or quantity?
Yeah, it has been different. I mean, just the shift in mindset from going into a consultation call. Am I a good coach? Will she like me? Can I show her that I'm a good coach, right? Those were the previous thoughts. And now I'm showing up in a way of like, how can I serve her? How can I be of service? How can I be of help? And then trusting the process that this person will hear what they need to hear today. And I don't need to perform. I don't need to like over deliver to prove my worth.
And one last question, because I've noticed that about you, you've been putting a lot more, I'm not sure if you're calling them training or classes or master classes, but you've been outputting more to meet people. Does it feel easier than before?
It does. Yeah, like anything that we practice, the more I do it, the easier it gets. But I also am counting like the success in a different way, right? Like in the past, like I did a webinar last week, right? And in the past, the success would have been how many people RSVP, how many people show up, how many people book consultation calls. And instead, I was like, I'm going to host this because I want to do it for myself and how I show up for myself and be brave and meet myself in all those moments where I want to talk myself out of doing it. And I had many of those moments. No, like I told my coach in this program, I was like, I think I want to pretend I'm sick and just cancel it. Like, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's fear. So how do I meet myself in the fear and feel that versus pretending I'm sick and canceling or postponing it? And so I met myself in that container, and then also just showing up in that webinar, like people are going to hear what they need to hear today, and I'm going to trust that. And my perspective on health might not be for everybody, and that's okay. There are other people out there, but just being of service in that hour and trusting the right people will be there.
That's beautiful. And that's why anxiety has reduced.
Yeah.
It's not a secret, right? How about
Yeah.
you, Candy?
Uh,
Business.
I think the biggest shift for me is, and this might sound counter, but there's no more survival energy urgency for me. And so I think I like to compare it to the intuitive eating pendulum process, right? We go one way, you know, because the pendulum, when you start the intuitive eating process and you take away or you start rejecting diet rules, etc., the brain is like, but there's only black and white thinking, the pendulation process from one side to the other, right? I feel like that was kind of how I was in my business before. It was always just, okay, I had all this energy and this momentum and, you know, this determination until I burnt out. And coming through this process, it's really helped me be like, it's again, the nervous system regulation and the urgency to produce is no longer there. I think that can also, you know, I've been afraid of getting stuck there. But I think for me, where I'm at in learning to trust myself, I needed this. I need this piece of the process. I need to be able to go to one side and then to the other. So for me, the biggest piece is a lack of that anxious, kind of like Kate was saying, the anxious survival urgency. Got to do this, got to push, right? And so I've been giving my nervous system the time that it needs to honestly heal after a 5-year stint of like pushing. And it's scary. Honestly, it's been scary. It's been scary. This is not a process for a lack of courage, right? This is a process that requires courage. So that's probably been the biggest one for me, is just allowing myself to have the time to really get to a place where I feel regulated and in alignment, because I can push and I can do the things and be a great coach, but I needed another level of alignment. I needed another level of nervous system regulation. So I'm still going through that process, honestly.
I love the analogy because that's like I don't want to say the other way of business, but I'll call it the traditional way of thinking about a coaching business. Go, 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 go. It's like the restricted side of like eating. Like you just gotta go, go, go 150%, 150%. You're gonna make 6 figure and you're gonna make 300,000 and 400,000 and you gotta go up, 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 up. Like it's constantly high, high, high energy. And that's not human.
No, but I love the parallel that you just drew there. That is totally restrictive. Oh my gosh, I can't eat carbs. Oh my gosh, I can't eat this. I got to control until you burn out and your body's like, girl, we can't do that, right? Yeah.
And it's going to the other side of doing nothing, quote unquote, binging, the other side of the pendulum. And now you're like, well, can I trust myself to not do anything and want to do something again?
Exactly.
Right? And you can't. You just got to build that safety of being able to do nothing and then do something and then do nothing and then do something, to the point where you come into a place where your business is just consistent all the time. It's not on, off all the time. But it takes that trust and that regulation to be able to output consistently, safely. Did you want to add anything, Mikhail? You raised your hand.
Yeah, I do. I know I keep raising my hand, but that would also be one of my learnings of this course, is because I clearly was conditioned, like that's the society we live in, right? But I thought I had to work all hours of the day and then felt guilt if I would only work a few hours and do something else with my time. But there's proof that it works, because I can take time away and then come back and find myself being more successful and enjoying myself more. And there's ideas flowing and it just feels right versus forcing myself to do it.
I want to bring you guys to another topic that's often where people, professional and coaches, get stuck, is that when they discover intuitive eating or body image or the non-diet approach or a different way of doing business, there's this phase where people are resentful from what they learned in the past, either in their degree. Oh, why has nobody told me that? I've wasted thousands of dollars in getting this master degree and like it doesn't, or I've wasted $100,000 on this coach and this mastermind. Have you felt that resentment, that regret, and how what would you like to share with somebody who's there right now? Candy is like all over this.
I think it's so important to understand that part of this process can absolutely include a grieving process. And so when you talk about resentment, that's part of the grief cycle, I think, because one of the first stages is anger. And along with the anger will come resentment. And I remember when I first started the program with you, because I only found you like, I don't know, a couple, 2-3 weeks before the program started. So I hadn't heard a lot of your stuff. And I just went into this, what the heck? I was so angry. I was so angry that I had been conditioned and I felt duped. And I went into this just visceral experience. And oh, yeah, there was a bunch of resentment, right? A bunch of resentment. And I recognized pretty quickly, oh, gosh, this feels like a grief cycle. And then the grief started coming in. And then just the beauty of the work that we do and how, you obviously teach the emotional processing stuff. I trusted everything and the emotions have processed through. I am not angry like I used to be. I'm not resentful. Does it pop up every now and again when I see things online? Yeah. But another beautiful thing that I've learned with you is that's part of it too. More of this acceptance, right? And so I feel like I'm much more closer to this acceptance. And I do want to say one thing, just because I know how I am and how a lot of women are. This is not about getting to a certain end point. That's another beautiful thing that I've learned with you. It's no, like fear of weight stigma is going to come up. Fear of this is going to come up, fear of that. And we're not trying to eradicate any of it. We're trying to process through it. We're working to create acceptance. And so that's kind of how I see it, is just a grief cycle and getting to more of this place of acceptance so that we can actually learn the lesson, so that we are more connected to our inner wisdom, our inner truth, that prefrontal cortex, and we can hear the lessons.
Anyone else wants to add?
I would just say, I think I processed it like months before I started this course, most of it, like the resentment, the anger, because I was on my own journey for a while with body image, intuitive eating, until I found this for my business and myself, clearly. But how would I put it? I think for me, the biggest thing that shifted and changed was I eventually came to a place, which started happening before I joined the course, was everything has brought me to this moment. And it's all part of the journey for me. I could spend my life resentful that I did these things, but in the long run, it's not going to help me at all. And it did get me to where I am today.
Yeah, that's the ultimate place, right? Nothing has happened for no reason.
Exactly.
You want to add anything, Kate?
Yeah, I don't think I had the resentment and anger when I started this program because I had been immersed in the non-diet intuitive eating perspective. So that piece wasn't new information. And I had actually aligned myself with what I would call like ethical business coaches. Yeah. So I felt good about that. So I didn't have to go through that stage when we first started, but the piece, like the reason I made the decision to work with you, I mean, I started binging your podcast, I think like a year and a half ago before I did the certification. And so I think part of it was wanting to have a greater impact on my clients and like really have the process and feeling really confident in knowing how to help them. That was my reason for signing up. And I'm the opposite of Candy. I take a while to make a decision. So like I needed to listen to hours of podcasts and do one course and then another mastermind and then do it.
Not always.
Okay. But I'm a long-term decision maker. But also I was at the point in my business where I'm like, I'm not going to haphazardly spend money trying to fix myself. I'm going to find the right coach for this right season in my business and match us up. So I think that was part of my deliberate researched decision-making process. So I felt really good coming into this certification.
And I just want to guide the listener, even though you're a professional listening to this and they're professional talking, we're still human purchasing a product. So now you've just heard two different brains thinking about a purchase differently. Guess what? You have that in your business. You have different brain trying to work with you, and one's going to take 2 years, one's going to take 3 weeks. Right?
Or 24 hours if you're me, who
Or
spends
24 hours. You know, like, but it's just to prove
for a while, but your stuff was just, it was what my heart was searching for. And so it was ready. And I love that you're pointing this out. This is so true. People are going to be at different parts of their journey when they're ready to make decisions.
And so, and this is important to understand, like Kate talked about why she joined, and she outlined the reason why she joined, and it's different for all of you. So do you mind, McKenna, sharing why you joined? Like, what was your decision? And then Candy. So everybody can see there's a different perspective.
For sure. Well, the first time my gosh, I bet you I came across Stephanie's stuff like a year and a half ago or something. Yeah, it was at least a year ago because it was somehow a friend actually sent it to me. But I did one of your core workshops last December, and it was in that session that I said, one day I want to work with this lady. One day I'm going to work with her. When? I don't know. When will this afford it? I don't know, but yeah. And then the spring came around this year and I finished my degree, and I was like, I'm not too sure what I'm doing. Felt kind of lost, but I knew there has to be another way to do business. And I knew I wanted to shift my business from the beginning. I knew I wanted to help people with food, their relationship to food and their body. I just didn't know how. And I'd taken things in the past, was promised the world. It always fell short. Still didn't know how to coach people. And then that's when I got pointed towards Stephanie after reaching out to another coach. And I was like, okay, like, I guess I got to do it. Like, this is like a sign. This is the only option out there for me to change the way I coach.
And so I want to say to people listening to this is a referral way. She was referred by one of my former word of mouth, right? Somebody who graduated like 2 years ago. She talked to her and then referred her to me. So that's another model.
And I will say I followed that coach and was like loving what she was doing and was like, how did you get there? And then she told me, and then I signed up. Within, I think it was 24 hours, I said yes.
Yeah. So share a story of your client works. How about you, Candy? What made you say yes?
I had started my business over 5 years ago. I was a health and weight loss coach, and it never felt right inside of me. And a couple of years ago, I started studying nervous system, trauma, etc. I even did a different certification program around eating psychology, but there was still something missing. And I knew it in the core of me. I knew it in my intuition. And honestly, for me, my belief system, however you want to put it, like God, the universe, whatever, I don't know where I found you. Something came up in a feed somewhere, and I went and I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is the missing piece why I didn't feel aligned. So the reason I joined was because something wasn't right inside. Like I knew, and when I started to hear, oh my gosh, it's because we've been so conditioned, and understanding the feminism piece and understanding the history of controlling women's bodies, I was like, no wonder. So it was just an internal longing for understanding why it didn't feel aligned for me. And honestly, those couple of days I was texting you about this program and about to sign, my heart was like, this is what you've been waiting for. I know it sounds a little dramatic, but like, this is what you've been longing for over 5 years, the why it hasn't felt aligned. And so I had a full body intuitive yes, like, yes, you know what I mean? And so it was very quick for me too, because I had been going through this process. I think this, and also I'm a postmenopausal woman, and part of this new transition into the next phase of life is what I want to even like spend my time on. I do not have any more, like people like to say F's to give, right? To put energy into anything that doesn't feel aligned anymore. And so when I came across this, I was like, holy cow, this is why. So that's why I said yes. And it did connect to helping my people. Absolutely. It was very personal too, though. I really wanted to feel that alignment and understand why I hadn't.
So give the background for people listening. This is we're talking about texting DM conversation, but it's not me cold pitching you. You came to me, you asked very specific question. I took the time to answer your question. I didn't rush you into a decision. I let it be the way it is. That's ethical selling. I used the DM conversation, but I didn't like cold pitch you, force you into it. We just naturally, human to human, had a conversation via text, and then you made your decision.
Exactly. And I really appreciated that. And I really noticed that difference in the way you interacted with me. Yeah. Was another reason I was like, okay, she's doing things differently in business too. So I was like, I got to get in on this. Yeah.
And I just want to say this, the reason why we do things differently in business and the reason why I teach differently in business is because when you've understood how the system work, not only with diet culture, weight and body, but with how the system interact with women, you don't have a choice but to do things differently. And when you're regulated as an individual, there's no way. So if you're listening to this and you're like, all the things I've been taught about business don't feel good anymore, they feel yucky, I resist, I don't want to do them, it's probably because you've healed yourself, you're regulated, and the old way of doing business doesn't match who you are anymore. Because you don't have a choice to show up differently in your business when you're aligned and regulated. Right?
100%.
And that, I think that's what you said, Candy, like the whole pendulum thing, like the more work you did on yourself, the old way, like the extreme way didn't work anymore.
100%. Yeah. Totally.
We're going to wrap this up because I committed to keep that consumable for people and respecting the listener's time. I just want your parting word to somebody who's listening to this, perhaps that were where you were. What would you say to them?
I'm a different person and I like who I am. And I'm so grateful. And if it feels like it resonates for your heart and soul, trust yourself. Trust yourself.
Yeah, similar message. I mean, just listen to your gut, listen to your body, right? That's the embodiment practice. So take a deep breath and check in. And if it feels right, it can feel right and it can feel scary at the same time. But if it feels right, then I mean, I have no regrets. I'm so glad and so proud that I said yes. And I'm also glad that I waited the 1.5 years and found when the time was right, and there's no scarcity thinking and like, doors are open, they're about to close, you have to sign up now. If right now is not the time for you, in 6 months, maybe it is, or a year, and that's the beauty of how you run your business too. Yeah. So
I've taken other courses in the past, and honestly, they've like promised the world, or I thought they're going to be the answer to making my business what I want it to be. And it didn't happen until this course. But my biggest takeaway is I've learned to trust myself. And I would just like say to someone, if you're really feeling that pull towards the course, then to do it, because you're not going to regret it. I really don't think you will.
Yeah.
Thank you, the three of you, for sharing your time with me and people who are listening to this today, tomorrow, 2 years from now. Thank you very much. And for people listening, we've linked in the show notes the name and the links of the individual that recorded the podcast today. So you can go to the show note and find them there and how they're coming out into the world. So thank you for sharing this time with us, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to shed diet culture from your practice and help more clients do the same? Awesome. We've got free resources to get you started. Simply go to stephaniedodier.com/pro series, all in one word, and access our 3 free training classes that are currently available. We also have a free PDF guide to intuitive eating, an article about the non-diet approach. We also offer a variety of paid programs throughout the year to support you in your journey to undiet your coaching practice. Join us at stephaniedodier.com/pro series, and I'll see you on the other side.